The lively streets of Abadan buzzed around the small rented hall where family, friends, and neighbors gathered for the engagement party of Dayo and Simi. Laughter and chatter filled the room, vibrant with the colors of Gele and Agbada. Dayo, a young, optimistic man with an infectious smile, looked fondly at Simi, the woman he hoped to spend his life with. "Ah, you two look like you've already been married for years," teased Uncle Bayo, a family elder, as he playfully nudged Dayo. "She has been managing me well, sir," Dayo laughed, glancing lovingly at Simi. As the evening unfolded, a hush swept over the room when Dayo approached the stage with a small, velvet box. Guests leaned in, anticipation crackling like the overhead strings of festive lights. "Please, let us all see," Auntie Funka urged, her eyes gleaming with curiosity. With a deep breath, Dayo opened the box, revealing a simple, elegantly worn brass key. Murmurs spread through the crowd like wildfire, and Simi's expression froze, caught between surprise and confusion. "What's this?" Simi asked, trying to keep her voice light as she examined the key closely. Dayo smiled warmly. "It's the key to our future, Simi. Remember when I took that jewelry-making class? I wanted something unique, something from the heart." Simi's smile strained, a forced courtesy. "Dayo, with all the talk of rings—" Everyone, Simi's cousin Tope piped up, a mischievous twinkle in her eyes. "Where is the diamond? Surely our dear Dayo didn't forget." His face fell momentarily, but Dayo pressed on. "Just trust me, Simi." Laughter erupted softly at the back, slightly mocking, slightly amused. Simi felt her cheeks heat with embarrassment amid whispers of cheap and unprepared. "Is this your great engagement surprise?" Simi sighed, trying to mask the mild sting of disappointment with humor, but her tone betrayed her, and a creeping tension gathered like a storm cloud. After the cake was cut and music filled the room, the whispers continued. Simi's best friend Laura pulled her aside. "Girl, that was unexpected." Simi shrugged, not meeting her friend's eyes. "It's fine, Laura. It's not about the size, right? But still, you deserve something better," Laura replied softly, brows knitted in concern. The party slowly wound down, leaving room for the echoes of Dayo's laughter to dim into a worried silence. He stood under the shade of a large tree in the courtyard, fingers unconsciously tracing the key's edges. "Could I have done better?" he mused aloud to himself, the insecurities creeping in. Uncle Bayo joined him with a knowing smile. "You have a good heart, Dayo. Don't let the murmurs get to you. True love sees beyond." Dayo nodded, but an unsettling doubt began gnawing at the edges of his confidence. Back inside, Simi paced, her mind a whirlpool of emotions. She thought of expectations, societal pressures, and what her friends would say. Her phone buzzed with messages. Most were kind words, but she dreaded the unspoken judgments. "I just wanted it to be special," she mumbled to herself, peeling away layers of uncertainty. The next morning, Simi sat at the local cafe with Laura. "I just don't understand why he thought that was enough," Simi confessed, a sigh heavy with frustration. Laura bit her lip. "Have you talked to him about how you feel?" Simi shook her head. "Not yet. Maybe I'm just overthinking. I just wish he'd thought this through more." As Simi headed home, she noticed a small box just outside her door. It wasn't the elegant packaging she might have anticipated, but rather simple and unassuming. Upon opening it, she found a note in Dayo's handwriting. "Meet me at Fred's barber shop, 7 p.m. She frowned curiously. Dayo wasn't one for grand gestures, so this seemed unusual. Day turned to evening as Simi approached the barber shop, heart pounding with a mix of anticipation and doubt. She pushed the door open hesitantly, the jingle of the bell announcing her arrival. Dayo stood inside, his eyes brightened by the warm yellow glow of the lights. "Hey, Simi." "What's this about?" she asked, cautious but intrigued. Dayo led her to the back, where a door she hadn't noticed before stood ajar. "I wanted to show you something." Pushing it open, they entered a room under renovation. Ambitious walls marked for new paint, fixtures shining in new packages waiting to be placed. Is it for us?" Simi stuttered, eyes wide. "Yes," Dayo said softly, offering the brass key again, now polished to a shine. "I wanted us to start something together, not just a life, but a legacy, a place for our future. And maybe, if you still want it, our business." Simi stared speechless as the pieces finally fell into place. The key wasn't just an object, it was a promise of dreams shared. In that moment, the door swung further open, and the faint clink of another key echoed in the empty space. An unfamiliar face popped in, a realtor smiling brightly. "Good evening. I see you've already found your keys." Dayo paled instantly, eyes darting between Simi and the realtor. "Wait, what do you mean by keys?" The air buzzed with electricity and confusion. Everything Dayo thought he knew about his plan began to unravel, leading them both into uncharted territories of trust and revelation. Dayo felt the ground slip beneath him as the realtor's words settled like an unwelcome guest in his mind. Simi stood there, trying to absorb the confusion, her eyes begging for an answer that Dayo himself did not have. "But this key," Dayo mumbled, holding it up, desperate to understand. "This was supposed to be ours, just for us." The realtor, sensing the awkward tension, adjusted his collar uncomfortably. "I'm sorry. Perhaps there has been some misunderstanding." Simi looked at Dayo, hurt and disbelief twining painfully in her chest. "What is going on, Dayo?" Dayo pushed the shame burning behind his eyes to the side, fumbling for words. I didn't know. I really thought... I was told this place was ready, just for us." Simi's voice wavered with exasperation, a simmering, barely controlled anger. "Did you sign anything? Was this even real?" Silence hung thick between them as Dayo shook his head. "I trusted a friend. He said he knew someone. I paid, but I didn't sign anything yet." Her eyes narrowed. "Who, Dayo? Who did you trust over us?" The name slipped from Dayo's lips before he could stop it. "Ayo," he muttered. "Ayo from university." Simi clenched her fists, understanding all too well the dynamics at play. The financial pressure, the desire to make a huge impression, but most importantly, the sting of misplaced trust. "Ayo, the same Ayo who was jealous of you getting into law school." Dayo's heart sunk as the events unfolded more clearly. "Yes, that Ayo," he admitted. His lips turned bitter with the taste of betrayal. "I should have known better." The air grew heavier as Simi realized just how far this deception ran. Ayo had preyed upon Dayo's dreams and aspirations. "What was the plan, seriously? How did he convince you?" Dayo slammed his fist against the doorframe, voice cracking under the weight of his mistake. "He said there was a delay, that it was just paperwork. I thought I could fix it by the engagement." "By deceiving me?" Simi's tone cut sharp, making Dayo flinch. "Our engagement based on a lie?" Inside the barbershop, emotions snapped back and forth like rubber bands, the room charged with a palpable intensity. Dayo's shoulders slumped, all pretenses crashing down. "I wanted to surprise you, to make it real, for you, for us. And now what?" Simi's voice shrank to a whisper, a vulnerable, trembling thing. "You couldn't come to me with the truth, Dayo? We're supposed to face things together." Dayo's heart twisted as he reached out, but Simi stepped back. Each word they exchanged felt like another stone between them. Later, as the evening cooled the Ibadan streets, Dayo found himself wandering aimlessly. The weight of regret dug deep into his conscience. His footsteps led him to the small community church, silent and inviting, lights softly aglow. On trembling legs he entered, drawn to the empty pews as if they offered refuge for his troubled soul. In the quiet sanctuary, Dayo found solace in the solitude. Memories of his grandmother's admonitions echoed in his mind. She had always said, "God is near to the broken-hearted, Dayo. Never forget." He lowered his head, hands clasped together in desperation. "God, I've messed up. I'm drowning and I can't reach Simi. I don't know what to do." Meanwhile, Simi sat alone in her apartment replaying the evening's events. Anger intermingled with hurt, but deeper still was the ache of loss, of dreams unrealized, of trust fractured. Her phone buzzed incessantly, friends eager for the latest news, but she ignored them all. Instead, she found herself staring at her bookshelf where her late mother's Bible rested. Almost unknowingly, her fingers pulled it free, flipping through pages until they settled on words her mother had once read to her during times of doubt. "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord." Jeremiah 29:11. The verse brought unexpected tears to her eyes, peeling away the layers of her hurt to reveal something raw, something that offered hope. Simi's resolve strengthened as she placed the Bible back, repeating the scripture in her mind. She knew she had to confront Io, not just for herself, but for Dayo too. The next morning, she arranged to meet Ayo with Dayo reluctantly in tow. The confrontation was set for a small cafe, a neutral ground where truths often emerged amid gentle sips of coffee. Ayo's casual demeanor rubbed against their raw nerves. Dayo's fists clenched under the table. Simi took a deep breath, heart steady, her voice solemn. "Why would you do this to us, Ayo?" Ayo chuckled, but beneath it lay a tinge of defensiveness. "It's not personal, Simi, just business. Dayo should have known it was too good to be true." Dayo's eyes flared. "I trusted you, Ayo. We were friends." "Friends?" Ayo sneered. "This is what happens when you don't watch your back." Dayo's anger soared, pushing him to the brink, but the weight of the pastor's words from childhood held him steady. "A soft answer turns away wrath," echoed in his mind. Out of his anguish, Simi saw the struggle, the internal battle waging within Dayo. "Let it go, Dayo," Simi said softly, her hand finding his. "Vengeance doesn't lead to peace." The words hung in the clatter of the cafe, a humble challenge whispered like a prayer. Ayo's smirk faded as he leaned back, a glint of surprise in his eyes. Ayo's facade cracked, revealing a shadow of uncertainty. Perhaps he had not expected Dayo to deflate, to retreat from the brink of confrontation. "You're just going to let this go?" "No," Dayo said quietly. "But I won't become like you, Ayo. I can't." Simi gripped his hand tighter. Dayo's heart, though heavy, began to find peace. The act of surrender, of choosing a different path, despite the pain, loomed large. Back at the church, Dayo knelt once more. This time Simi was beside him. The two linked in silent prayer. Shadows from the stained glass danced gently around them. "I'm sorry," Dayo murmured, voice choked and raw. "For everything. I want to make it right, to do better. Together," Simi whispered, the sound of it a balm over wounds. "We'll figure this out, God willing." The months passed slowly, marked by careful rebuilding. Ayo's deceit was exposed with time, and he faced his own consequences, but Dayo remained steadfast, choosing forgiveness over bitterness. The old scars lingered, reminders of lessons learned. But Dayo and Simi built on faith, bricks laid firm with love and understanding. On a warm evening beneath the abundant sky, Dayo and Simi stood outside the real barbershop they had finally opened for themselves. The sign hung above, legacy and love. As they turned the key, this time a new, shining one crafted together, Dayo murmured in Simi's ear, "Vengeance doesn't free you, only Christ can." Simi smiled up at him, a gentle peace settling in her heart. It wasn't the perfect path they'd once imagined, but it was theirs. It was redeemed.
Thank you so much for listening to this intriguing story. I hope it touched you or taught you something. For more stories like this, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the page. And guys, if you'd like to see a part 2, or you have thoughts on what happened, let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. See you in the next story.